Hello, and welcome to the Green Team of the Legendarium, the weird little spin-off podcast of the Legendarium, where patrons get together and discuss the books and topics the main crew haven't gotten around to yet. I'm Little Red Book. And tonight I have with me Mike from the Deep Dive Cosmere podcast thing that he does. And also a frequent guest when we're discussing John Scalzi. Hi, Mike.
Hey, Allison. Or Red. I don't know what you go by on this one.
It doesn't matter. Everyone knows my name is Allison, and you can call me Red. Whatever makes you happy.
You may know me from the Discord as a lot of different names, but mostly Lammy.
Definitely. So, Lammy, why are we here tonight? Besides just discussing the book, like, why are we discussing this book?
Oh, because I pitched this one to Red, ideally for her own podcast, which I would like to plug right now. It's called Wordless. It is she and her co-host Mark, and occasionally some guests, discuss short fiction, usually in the fantasy and sci-fi neighborhood. And it is a delight to listen to. I've been on several episodes, as have my own co-hosts from my own podcast, which I'll do a proper plug at the end.
It's too long.
Yeah, the book is just slightly too long. The end of the book proper in my hardcover copy was like 321 pages, and Allison has a hard cutoff of 300 pages.
The one I saw was 400 pages. That's why I cut it off. Like, I think Ender's Game is 3. None of the green tea people care about this. We'll just go on. Anyway, so I'm having you here because you're a regular contributor. So even though you're technically not a patron, you've been here enough. So that's why I'm having you on. So when was the first time you read this book?
The first time I read this book was, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago. My wife actually introduced me to it. Yeah. I have been a fan of the movie for as long as I can remember movies, basically. Like, this was a childhood staple. I grew up with this movie. I didn't even know it was a book until maybe 15 years ago.
Really?
Yeah. But yeah, no. Read the book, loved the movie, loved the whole thing. It's wonderful.
Yeah. So somebody asked me, actually it was Number One Son. He's like, is it as funny as the movie? I'm like, it's funny, but it's funny differently.
Are we getting into straight up the comparison with the movie right now?
No. There's a whole lot we can do about that. And all the questions, by the way, that we got from Green Team, they're all about comparisons.
Yeah, it is funny. It is a lot of the things that are funny in the movie are also funny in the book. Some of the things that are funny in the book are just localized to the book. Like they didn't make it over to the movie.
I agree with that. I did not prepare a summary, but I feel like it's so much part of the zeitgeist that we can just do the summary now. So
I mean, the summary is go watch The Princess Bride. It's an hour and a half long, and it's on most streamers. And just do it. If you haven't ever seen it, like, you're missing out on what I consider to be the best movie ever made.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but it's up there for sure.
This is another case of movie versus book. The movie frame is really all it needed, I thought. The book frame goes into more than was really necessary to get us into the plot. And also he creates a couple of characters of his fictional wife at the time of the 10th anniversary edition that I read, at fictional ex-wife and son, that he clearly doesn't like either of these people. And I didn't really feel like that was a level of meanness that I didn't really feel like the book needed.
I don't feel that way about either of those characters, but they're not really there enough. What I would say about the framing is it has two frames. You have the frame where he is a little kid with pneumonia getting read to.
Yeah, that frame is wonderful.
Right. But he has another frame where he is editing out the boring parts of the book. And there's these lovely parentheses, which is almost as good as footnotes. I'm a fan of footnotes. Where like some princess is bringing like 100 chests of dresses and all this kind of stuff, and like just really obnoxiously long descriptions. And that's the second frame. And maybe there's a third frame where he's interacting with his son and his wife. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, that's
two or three
part
frames.
that's part of the editing it down part.
Oh yeah. Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
Because it's him as an adult successful writer, and he remembers this book from his own childhood because his father read it to him when he had pneumonia. It inspired him to become a writer. And he, for his son's 10th birthday, he wants to make sure that his son can have this book. So there's a whole section where he's like frantically calling every bookstore he can find in New York. Nobody has it in English. And he finally finds one. He calls his lawyer to like drive out in a snowstorm to get this book to deliver it to his son. And then because he's in LA to finish up a script for, I think, Stepford Wives is what he said he was working on.
I don't remember, actually.
Anyway, a week later, he's like, "Hey, kid, how'd you like the book?" And the kid was like, "Oh, it was great. And what was your favorite chapter?" "The first one." "Really? Didn't you like this part and this part and this part?" And he's like, "Yeah, they were wonderful." And it's clear he hadn't actually read the book. And then we find out that he tried. The first chapter is great. The second chapter is awful and boring and just fully unreadable.
Well, and I mean, do you want a list of the 100 chests of dresses? Like, a little boy isn't going to want to read that.
I mean, if you're interested in, the satire of the Florinese nobility, sure.
Again, a 10-year-old boy. Yeah. So when I sat down to read this book, this is, like I said, I think it's my second time. I forgot how really, really funny it is with like just the poking at a certain type of literary fiction or fantasy fiction. Just and at the same time, it's doing it, which is what makes it great satire. Is it's like, maybe we don't need to know all this information just to get the story. Can we just stop? And considering, was it 78 when this was published? And then you have the Wheel of Time. Now, I'm not saying the Wheel of Time is bad. What I'm saying is the Wheel of Time does exactly what this book is making fun of. Oh, Lammy's mad now.
Oh, no, I'm looking for the year. 73.
Okay. Yeah.
And no, I'm not mad. The Wheel of Time absolutely does that. That was Robert Jordan trying to like flesh out all these different cultures, because there's a bunch of little countries on this one little mini continent, and they make up the entire world of the story, and he wanted everybody to be distinct, so everybody has unique fashions and buildings and the way they speak and the way they act, and yeah, it was a whole thing.
Yeah, it also, I think he's mostly poking fun at Tolkien, because Tolkien does this too, to a certain extent, where it's just like, dude, we don't need to know all these things, and you invented an entire language for your book, several languages for your book. Anyway, I just found that interesting. So the first question that we have that I found absolutely hilarious is from Kipton. How long did it take you to get the unabridged copies?
Mine never came in. I couldn't find one in English in the US that would ship to me.
It was super weird, right? Okay, so I'm going to confess something. I did not realize when I was when I first read this book, that the unabridged or the abridged version was the joke of the book until after I had read the book.
I mean, I got the joke right away, but also I read it, like I said, about 7 years ago as an adult.
I want to say I was like maybe 15. No, I was younger than 15. I was very young. And I was like, there's an unabridged, and I was looking for it. Anyway.
I mean, okay. The way he presents it is like all of the stuff in the frame story is just his life. It's stuff that actually happened. And yeah, it is fully reasonable to assume that the part where he tells you this is real, the other parts, these are going to be fiction, but this part is real, is to actually assume that he's actually telling you the truth and not lying to you. It's because authors are
liars,
psychopaths. Yeah.
One of my favorite things about the foreword to one of Ursula Le Guin's books, the one about the aliens that changed, the like clownfish aliens, is that she says that authors are liars and they lie to tell the truth. But anyway, sorry.
Now are we ready for the next question? Because this is meaty and I want to spend some time on it.
Okay, so most of the other questions have to do with. Oh wait, there's one other question. What is your favorite non sequitur in the book?
Probably the professor at Columbia University on Florinese studies that he keeps mentioning. He's like, this guy would absolutely hate that I've cut this part, but I did, and I guess the heck with him. Sorry, professor. Like, it gets brought up like 2 or 3 times, and it's pretty good every time. Like, it gets me.
Yeah, that's from Sun Gamer, by the way. My favorite is the part where he goes off and starts talking about how his neighbor next door, or maybe it was the mother of his friend. It's like, life's unfair, she says to him, and he's like, now I'm free because I know life is unfair. I was just like, what is happening right now? So, but there's a lot of those kind of weird mentions that makes the book a lot of fun.
Okay, sorry. There is one bit that I enjoyed more, that is in the parenthetical in italics. This is William Goldman talking section, which is there is an entire chapter that is fully gone from like fully taken out of the original Morgenstern. And the summary of it is between one thing and another, 3 years passed. And then he goes on to like explain what all the stuff that he took out is. But that is my favorite chapter in the entire book. It might be my favorite chapter in all of fiction.
Wow. Really?
Yeah, it's really good.
It's wild. It's really wild. Like, this book is so creative in the way it deals with things, and it has problems. I'm not saying it's perfect. It's really unique. And yes, the movie is wonderful. I love the movie. It's the only movie I've watched more than The Princess Bride is Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Like, literally, it's my second most watched movie. And it is a joy to watch. And yet, Wesley is kind of a D-bag. He kind of is. And
hold on, are you talking book Wesley or movie Wesley?
Book Wesley.
Yes, he absolutely is.
The movie one is kind of too, because the way he handles rescuing Buttercup, he's kind of a D-bag. But she is a raging witch. She just is. They're both terribly unlikable people, and like you love them together, even though they're horrible people. Feelings, thoughts. I could be wrong.
I mean, you're right. The way Wesley treats Buttercup on their reunion is pretty awful. It's less awful in the movie, and it's because he's trying to keep up the facade of his identity, right, in the movie. As soon as that goes away, he's great immediately. In the book, he just continues being kind of an a-hole.
Buttercup is not a nice person either.
No, she is not.
She is, the way she treats Wesley in particular, but pretty much everybody around her. And she's so shallow, and just like everything that feminists say is bad about fairy tales, she embodies. She's basically beautiful and kind of dumb. Like, I mean, that's our character.
I feel like that was partially intentional on Goldman's
Oh, I'm sure it
right?
was. Yeah. Oh, 100%. It actually adds to what's funny about it.
Okay. So everyone in this book and movie are the best thing.
Right.
So Buttercup is the most beautiful. There are full sections of the book dedicated to Buttercup's ranking in terms of like top whatever beautiful women in the world. Like she starts out the book in like not even in the top 100 because she's just not there yet. Like it's all. I mean,
this is the whole plot point in the first chapter is how she moves up to the most beautiful.
Yeah. And yeah, like there's recurring gags of like the rankings of things. There's recurring gags of this takes place before this thing and after this thing, and if you know anything about either of those things, then clearly this doesn't have a time period that it can possibly exist in. Like, it's after France but before Europe.
Like, I love that whole running gag about this is before ulcers, but actually there were ulcers, we just didn't know what they were, so like that anyway, sort of thing.
Everyone in the book is the most thing. So Inigo is the best fencer. Fezzik is the strongest. Vizzini is the smartest. Prince Humperdinck is the best hunter. And Wesley is better than all of them at all of those things.
What about the Count? He's the best torturer?
Yeah.
Like, that's his thing?
That's his thing.
Which is super creepy.
He is dedicated to the study of pain.
Yeah. But I do appreciate... I'm agreeing with you. I'm just letting you know that it's been a long time since I've read the book, and I was just shocked at how dumb Buttercup is. She's just dumb, and it drives me nuts.
Right. Okay. So for everybody who isn't Wesley, right? For everybody who isn't Wesley, who is the best thing? That's the only thing they're good at. Like Inigo is the best fencer, but he can't even like take care of himself. He just goes and gets drunk when he doesn't have a job. Like Fezzik just wanders around because he can't remember the rhyme that Inigo gave him of what to do when the job fell apart. Like Buttercup is written to be very, very dumb, but it doesn't matter because she's the most beautiful.
I am totally agreeing with you. I'm just letting you know that this is something that really stood out to me. And I usually don't care about things like that. It's just, and I don't even care in this book because you're right. This is like, she is the most thing. And, you know, Fezzik is also very dumb. Poor guy. That, by the way the book handles the backstories of Physique and Indigo, I mean, it's heartbreaking. All Physique wants is to not be alone.
Yep.
And he ends up in Mongolia and his parents die and he's all by himself and he wanders around until the Sicilian dude finds him. And it's just so sad.
So I can't remember a time in my life when I didn't know the plot of this then movie, now book. Did the fact that Inigo and Fezzik got flashback chapters, but Vizzini didn't, did that trip you off for anything? Like,
I mean, he does kind of, but not really. In the movie, he doesn't really get.
Well, in the book, he doesn't really either.
Yeah, but the book really does go into their backstories in a much deeper way than the movie does. You get more of Inigo's background than you do in the movie than you do of Physique's, but you don't get background on Vizzini. He's just like there.
Nope.
And
all right, shall we?
Well, I'm gonna say I think the reason why is because he's just the bad guy.
I mean, sure, but
that's the reason why.
So the structure of the book is like, as Wesley is, climbing the cliffs of insanity and Inigo is left to fence him to death, we cut away from that before that starts to get Inigo's backstory. As Wesley is, crossing the wilderness to go fight Fezzik one-on-one to the death, we cut away from that to get Fezzik's backstory.
But it's very much briefer in the movie, which you have to do in a movie. Right. I mean,
as Wesley is going from the fight with Fezzik to the Battle of Wits with Vizzini, there's no cutaway. There's no backstory. We just go straight to it.
Right. Because so this is from an older school of fiction. Like, everyone has to be nuanced now. Anakin needs to be nuanced into Darth Vader and whatnot. And it's just like, sometimes it's just nice to have a bad guy that you can just hate. Much like the Count and Prince Humperdinck. Like, neither one of those characters are sympathetic in any way.
So can we finally talk about
the
book to the movie, the differences thereof?
Yes. I'm sorry. I just had thoughts about that. How, if at all, is the book different from the movie? And this is from Emperor Claptrap.
Do you want to start on this one, or do you want me to?
You can start.
Okay. So, because the script for the movie was also written by William Goldman, this is a kind of a unique scenario that you don't really often see in book to movie adaptations, where Goldman got the chance to think about this for a while and just refine the events of the book even further. So the concept of the book is it's the good parts version from this original Florinese novel that's like this big satire about nobility, and it's a whole thing. And then there's like bits and pieces of this great adventure story in there. The movie just refines that even further. So we lose a lot of the explanations for stuff. Like, the book gives us an explanation for why Humperdinck wants to go to war with Gilder. The movie doesn't have that. We don't need it. It doesn't matter why. He just does.
Mm-hmm.
We lose most of the backstory for Fezzik and Inigo. The only backstory we need is the bit that Inigo, Count Rugen killed his dad, and he wants revenge. Mm-hmm. That's all we need. Just refine it down.
Well, and Physique's story,
possible.
Physique's story is alone in Greenland. Like, that's his whole backstory.
And he's been fighting local groups for charities, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
which is almost impossible to parse with Andre the Giant's so thick French accent. I don't know how many times I watched the movie before I got that line. I think thanks to subtitles.
I'm not gonna lie, I watch everything with subtitles. But anyway.
But yeah, so the movie is just like a super refined version of the concept of the book. Like, you shave off all the unnecessary parts. You still keep the frame of, well, in the movie, it's grandpa reading to sick grandson instead of father reading to sick son. There's no author doing an abridgment. Like, that part's completely cut.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, it's just, it takes the very core of the story and shaves off everything you don't need.
So my thought about this whole adaptation thing is that it's nearly a perfect adaptation. Much like what you said, it shaved off all the things, because there are things you can do in books that movies are not suited to. You just can't do that in a movie unless you're going to do a 7-hour long or however long Lord of the Rings is. And even they had to shave things off. Like, there's just things you cannot do in movies that you can do in books. And it's not that it's unnecessary. It's just that they're different mediums or media. And this is one of the most faithful adaptations, and things that they cut, that they changed a little bit or whatever. It was faithful in spirit. Does that make sense? Even if yeah. And so
the biggest things that were cut were just the motivations for things, because you don't need them.
No, especially when you're making basically a comedic action movie.
And then, like, the biggest changes beyond that were just some of the lines were just refined a little bit and better.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the whole Miracle Max section is so much better in the movie than it is in the book. It's still pretty good in the book, but in the movie, it's perfection. Like, it is beat for beat, just like the exact right things that everybody should say. It's hilarious. It's wonderful. Billy Crystal is incredible.
That has got to be one of his best parts, even though he's a bit part. He is so good.
Okay, so I got to see The Princess Bride at the Milwaukee Symphony Orchestra. They do movie showings where the orchestra actually plays the score. This was wonderful. The conductor at the beginning was like, hey, we like to hear applause. We like reactions. Whenever you see your favorite character, feel free to clap and yell and cheer. And that happened for literally every character that showed up the first time. But the roof nearly came off when Miracle Max showed up. Like,
he's amazing. He's so good. And that whole scene where he's arguing with his wife, which this happens in the book, but it's more extended than it is in the movie. And they're standing there waving at the door. Have fun storming the castle. Just, and the argument about whether he's dead or not or Wesley's dead or not. Oh, so I do have a question about the Pit of Despair. So this is something that actually is very different from the book. So, do you like the zoo versus the Pit of Despair?
I mean, I like them both, but I absolutely understand why the Zoo of Death was cut for the movie. Like, it's this whole extra thing that you just don't need to tell the story as it is. Like, it's the setup for it takes a bit of time at the beginning. It's all tied into Prince Humperdinck's hunting, which you don't go into the backstory for that. We don't need an explanation for it. He can track a falcon on a cloudy day. He can find you. The end. And it's just Fezzik and Inigo having a little 4-story adventure before they finally make it down to the bottom, which we don't need. We're already doing adventure stuff.
It is a really fun dungeon crawl, is what it is.
It is, but again, like
no,
yeah, we're refining things down. We can cut this part. We don't need it.
Well, it's like cutting Tom Bombadil. Like, I love Tom Bombadil. It doesn't need to be in the movie. Go read the books if you want Tom Bombadil.
Yeah,
and I love the Zoo of Death. Like, especially the part where they're... So what I really love about that is they are saving each other back and forth. That's actually something I really like about the book in general. Like, people are saving each other. Like, nobody's like... People have to save Wesley. People have to save Zeke and Inigo. Even Buttercup just says, "I'm the queen. Like, let us through," which is the only smart thing she does in the book. Like, they save each other, and I just love that. I don't know if you have thoughts, but
yeah, no, it's great.
The bats were my favorite in the Zoo of Death.
Well, that was where Inigo got to shine, while also having a little flashback of getting yelled at by a Scotsman.
That was amazing. Okay, so other questions. I'm making weird mouth noises that I'm going to have to cut. I do cut things when I edit, by the way, Mike.
Oh, I don't.
I know. I can tell. I cut them badly sometimes. This is going at the end of the podcast. Synopsis of the bridge section.
Oh, yeah, that was mine. The chapter. I think it was like chapter 4. Between one thing and another, 3 years passed.
Yeah,
it's the best.
I think we covered all the questions.
Favorite change between the book and the film?
Just about everything that they cut from the book that involved Prince Humperdinck. Like, I don't want to spend time with him and the Count. They're just terrible people, I would say. And they're so slimmed down and you just don't have to deal with them. That would be my favorite. I think. What about you?
Again, the Miracle Max section. Just it's good in the book, and it just gets like, I can tell that he went through a few passes in the screenplay to get this one just right. It feels like a lot of effort was put in to like tighten it up and trim it down and get the lines just right, and it's perfect.
Do you think Billy Crystal had a lot to do with that?
I have no idea. I've never heard of any like improvising on the set, but I don't hear about improvising on a lot of sets. So,
well, no, I just like he's done
Billy
a lot
Crystal.
of scripted.
Yes,
yeah, he's done a lot of scripted stuff. So maybe he was informing that. I don't know. I have no idea. We're making theories up now. It's like,
maybe Billy Crystal was behind changing it to mutton, lettuce, and tomato instead of cough drops. Right?
That was a weird thing. The whole cough drops thing that at the end of the book, I was like, I kind of felt like he was trying to make fetch happen a little bit with the cough drops.
I mean, I'm not saying Billy Crystal couldn't have sold you on cough drops. I bet he could have. But when the mutton is nice and lean, the tomatoes are so perky. Like, that was incredible.
I think one of the other things I like is that you don't need the whole rankings of beautiful in the movie. It's really fun in a novelization. It would not have been fun in a movie. And the beginning is so much more compact than the book. And I am not recommending the book. The book is great. It's a book. It's not a movie. So,
yeah, the movie gets where it's going so fast. Like, compared to the book, there's like a full, pretty long chapter of, Buttercup growing up and Wesley's there and as you wish, and she yells at him, and as you wish, and she's like, oh, I just realized I'm in love with you. And he's like, well, I've been telling you I'm in love with you the whole time. That's what as you wish means. Have you not been paying attention? She's like, I haven't. And then the movie is just like, Oh yeah, no, they love each other, and he goes off. And we're moving on.
So I would say I do like the Death Swamp better in the book than in the movie, but I don't know how you would do it in the book or in the movie. Like I don't know how you would. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Like
The fire swamp, the
fire
three
swamp,
dangers,
yeah.
the snow sand, which is turned to, I believe, lightning sand in the movie.
Yeah.
Despite that being something that is mentioned in the book as a completely different thing.
Right.
I
just like the fire swamp better in the movie or in the book than I do in the movie, is what I'm trying to say. But I don't know how you would do it from the book to the movie well.
Yeah, I don't know either. I prefer the movie, but that's because I can just see the fire swamp in the movie and it gives me all the visuals, and I don't have to try to imagine it from the descriptions. That Goldman is a great author for this book. He's not actually super good at descriptions. He's pretty loose with his descriptions.
I think that's fair, but I think you could say that about a lot of good authors.
Sure.
The rats, though, when you rewatch the movie, they're truly horrible, just visually.
Oh yeah, no, it's a dude in a rat suit. Like, it's clearly a dude in a rat suit.
But
it doesn't try to be something that isn't a dude in a rat suit.
So bad. So, how would you rank this? And I don't have an answer to this question up front. How would you rank this as far as adaptations go, book versus movie?
I mean, this is, if it's not the top, it's pretty darn close. Like, there's also, The Martian did a great job. Lord of the Rings is obviously, very, very high up there. Not The Hobbit.
Oh, The Hobbit was terrible.
There were a couple of really good parts of The Hobbit that, if the rest of the 3 movies had been as good as those 2 or 3 scenes, it would have been better, but it wasn't.
What are you doing turning like a 500-page book into 3 movies?
Money. You're making money.
I know. I have not finished the last one.
You're making money based on the goodwill of the 3 movies you already made, and you're throwing that goodwill in the toilet.
Yep, 100%. Peter Jackson, shame on you.
I mean, are you going to ignore a dump truck full of money if they back it into your driveway and tell you to make 3 movies?
I mean, look. I'm just saying, he tossed it in the toilet, and it makes me angry. Anyway, okay. So other adaptations.
But yeah, this is definitely in the running for the best one. It may be the best one. It may not be the best one. I think it comes down to personal taste. But there's several very, very good ones out there, and this is among them. I don't want to rank them like Morgenstern would have.
So as far as, I would still put Lord of the Rings. No, actually, I would put Pride and Prejudice first, the BBC version.
Okay.
And then Lord of the Rings, and then this. So I am ranking them, I guess. There's several Sherlock Holmes adaptations that are very good. Hitchhiker's Guide is pretty good, though, and now we're starting to slip.
I mean, there's also stuff like Coraline. There's, like I said, The Martian.
I've not seen Coraline.
Excellent.
Martian is excellent. Yeah. So if I had to rank them, those Pride and Prejudice, Lord of the Rings, this, and then The Martian.
Like, The Martian was such a good adaptation because it did the exact same thing that The Princess Bride did, where it didn't change things, it just cut things out.
Yeah.
Like, you get explanations for stuff in the book that you don't get in the movie, and it doesn't matter.
So the very funny thing about watching The Martian the second time is that you can see all the times that they didn't say the F word so they could keep it PG-13.
Yep.
It's hilarious if you watch it with those eyes. But it's a great, Andy Weir's great. I love him.
All right, I have one question from Chesky that I'm not qualified to answer, but I'm pretty sure you are.
Okay.
Explain in as many words needed why this adaptation is much better than Ella Enchanted. I've only seen the movie, which I enjoyed. I have not read the book.
Oh my God. The movie is so bad, especially if you've read the book. Like, every redeeming quality of the whole story is that Ella is super smart and she figures out how to subvert her obedience, and the freaking boyfriend, Prince Char, I think his name is the worst in the book or in the movie. He's dumb. He's just dumb. And in Char in the book, he cares about policy. He's trying to figure things out. And the evil fairy doesn't even learn her lesson in the movie. She learns it in the book. It is infuriating. By the way, go listen to that episode of The Green Team because Chesky is going to explain it way better than I do.
I feel like I need to read this book.
You do. The book is actually a lot of fun. Like, Panda spent a year trying to get me to read it, and I finally read it, and I'm like, why haven't I read that? And all these years, I've been missing out on this book. It'll take you like a day. It's not long.
Oh, can I share with you some of William Goldman's screenwriting credits?
Sure.
Because there's some really impressive stuff here. So there's Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. He talks about that a lot in the book, which is something that leads you to believe that the other stuff he talks about in that section is real, because this is real. There's the Stepford Wives. There's the Hot Rock. I don't know if you've ever seen that one.
No, but I've read the book.
There's All the President's Men, The Princess Bride, obviously, Misery, Maverick, The Ghost in the Darkness, Absolute Power.
I'm assuming the Mel Gibson, the Maverick.
I believe so.
Yeah.
It's 94. That sounds about right.
Yeah.
And then this one is really Dreamcatcher. Did you ever see that one? Dreamcatcher?
Is that the one with the crap weasels?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. No,
I did not see that.
Very good, successful screenwriter William Goldman wrote the screenplay for Dreamcatcher, and it was directed by Lawrence Kasdan of Empire Strikes Back fame.
Oh, no.
There was some talent attached to that movie, and it didn't help.
I mean, wasn't Morgan Freeman in it?
He sure was. Talent, I'm telling you.
So my experience with Dreamcatcher is watching, I want to say Honest Trailers, but it might have been CinemaSins. Because
I mean, the ideal way to see it is you turn on some cable channel at 3:00 on a Sunday, and the thing you were watching ended, and this came on, and you don't have the energy to change the channel.
I still haven't seen the Cocaine Bear movie, by the way.
I mean, that's completely irrelevant to what we're talking about, but it's excellent. It's very good. That bear has the best day.
Oh, wow. This is going to be fun to edit.
It sure is. Listen, I'm telling you, the best way to edit, just leave it all in. It's fine. Especially the stuff that you say that you're going to edit out.
I mean, I just think it's a running joke now for you. For your podcast.
It isn't not that.
Okay. Anything else you want to say?
Don't we normally do, like, who would you recommend this to?
I would recommend it to everybody, to be perfectly honest. I just think it has universal appeal. Yeah, especially the movie, but also the book.
The book and the movie are both, like, the book is something I would recommend to every human that reads.
Yep.
The movie I would recommend to every person that watches movies.
I agree. I really cannot think of somebody who, I mean, I'm sure there is somebody out there who does not like this. I don't know who you are. You person who won't like this. I really don't. Like, there are things that I read that I'm like, I would not recommend this to anybody. I would not recommend Pride and Prejudice to you, for example. Or to Era, or to Mark. It's not because this is something that I think is universal. I feel kind of the same way about it as I feel about The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Like, I feel like anybody could enjoy it.
I mean, I feel like this has even more universal appeal than the guide.
Probably.
Like, there's people who just don't like sci-fi who, like, The Hitchhiker's Guide wouldn't appeal to.
Okay, fair enough.
And I guess there's people who don't like fantasy that Princess Bride might not appeal to, but there's little fantastical elements to it. Like
Miracle Max is the only thing that's fantastical.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, I guess that Wesley became the best swordsman ever in 3 years is fantastical.
Well, not just the best swordsman, the best everything.
Yes.
Like, there's a reason why he has to be mostly dead for the climax of the book to work. It's because if he wasn't, he'd just win immediately.
Right. I just... Yeah, I can't think of somebody I wouldn't recommend this book to. Or movie, for sure. Okay, so do you have something to plug?
I sure do. That would be my own podcast, the Cosmere Deep Dive Podcast, where we go through the works of Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere in chronological order. We are currently recording, I believe we're in the last half of Yumi and the Nightmare Painter.
Oh, yay!
Which has been frustrating and more recently fun. It finally got me. But yeah, and you can find links to stuff at patreon.com/CosmereCast.
And Mike very kindly already plugged my podcast, which I actually need to edit like 2 episodes now. Thank you so much for joining us. Please consider supporting the Legendarium on Patreon. Thanks, Craig, for loaning us a little corner of your media empire, and Horizon Brave for starting it all. For Mike and me, I'm Little Red Book. Good night, y'all.
Bye.
Thank you for doing this, by the way.
Oh yeah, this was fun. I like talking about Princess Bride. You gave me an excuse to reread it too.
So I have a story about that. I bought the audiobook for it. The audiobook was basically the movie. It was not the book.
Really? They abridged the abridged book?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.